It's January 7th, 2019, and it's time to review 5 of the most outrageous, infuriating, or just plain baffling things that have happened lately. It's your Facepalm 5. Let's count them up. I changed it. Makes more sense because we start at 1. Anyway. Number 1, Trump's government shutdown drags on. I hate to start a new year of facepalms by repeating a facepalm from last year, but that whole government shutdown thing is still going on, and I think I've narrowed down the cause to this one guy. That's him. The shutdown, which began on December 22nd, will now almost certainly last until at least Wednesday, with Congress adjourned until Tuesday. If that turns out to be the case, this will be the second longest federal government shutdown in U.S. history, the longest since 1996. And it would only have to last a few days past Wednesday to become the longest in history, since that 95-96 shutdown holds the record at 21 days. And last week, Trump declared he was willing to keep the government shut down indefinitely. This is all over Trump demanding $5 billion for the construction of his coveted wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. Congressional Democrats, to their credit, have so far stood firm in their refusal to fund the wall, rightly pointing out that any money spent on such a wall would be a waste of money, as building a wall would do little, if anything, to improve the situation at the border. But see, it's even worse than walls are easily thwarted by people who want to enter the country illegally. The $5 billion Trump wants to build the wall would only cover the construction of about 300 miles of wall. The U.S.-Mexico border, in case you were wondering, is about 2,000 miles long. So Trump is keeping the government closed in order to pressure Congress into giving him money to build a wall that will only run along about 15% of the border. Building a wall that runs the entire length of the border has been estimated to cost anywhere from $20 billion to $50 billion. The only thing this $5 billion will accomplish is giving Trump a meaningless political victory, which he can then inflate into another delusional triumph of historic proportions. Though who am I kidding? Even if he doesn't get any money for the wall, Trump's got an accomplishment out of this already. In a few more days, he'll be able to take the stage at one of his ego-stroking rallies and declare to the crowd of braying admirers that he presided over the longest government shutdown in American history. People are saying it's the greatest government shutdown they've ever seen. Lots of people are telling me that. They say, Mr. President, your shutdown is the most amazing thing. We've never seen anything like it. I should burn this. Number 2, establishment Republicans rally around Trump in wake of Romney op-ed. So remember a couple years ago when Donald Trump was elected president and all of the non-shitty, sensible people were like, oh, this is terrible. He's a terrible person, he'll be a terrible president, he'll do all kinds of terrible things. And all of the smug know-it-all centrists were like, calm down, it's not that big of a deal. We've had Republican presidents before. Sure, Trump is a wild card, but he'll be surrounded by establishment conservatives who will rein him in and stand up to him and keep him from doing anything too bad. Remember? Because that totally happened. Anyway, last week, Mitt Romney wrote this op-ed for the Washington Post, and he was sort of critical of Trump. He endorsed most of Trump's policy agenda, but he came out against the tone of Trump's rhetoric and Trump's erratic, reckless, short-sighted way of engaging with international allies, and just his whole divisive, lying, generally shitty gimmick. And what happened? The MAGA shitheads threw a tantrum because somebody said something less than glowing about their guy, but the Republican establishment lined up behind Romney to let Trump know they mean business and he'd better pull his ass together? Nope. Establishment Republicans, not 4chan assholes, not overtly racist alt-right or alt-right adjacent podcasters. Hi, Ben Shapiro, I'm talking about you. But long-standing influential fixtures of the party spoke out against Romney in defense of Trump. Former White House Press Secretary Ari Fleischer tweeted that he was disappointed that Romney's first act as a new U.S. Senator was to criticize the president. Senator Rand Paul and David Limbaugh more or less accused Romney of virtue signaling. Brit Hume characterized Romney's op-ed, in which he endorses most of Trump's policy agenda, I remind you, as a, quote, nasty piece. Don't get me wrong here. Those people, Ari Fleischer, Rand Paul, David Limbaugh, Brit Hume, they're pieces of shit. To hell with all of them. But they're also establishment Republicans. You know, the ones who were supposed to rein Trump in. And here they are jumping on Mitt Romney for writing an editorial where, I say for the third time, he endorses Trump's policies while pointing out what should be obvious to anyone who isn't a full-fledged member of Trump's red hat sporting cult, that Trump is vulgar, ignorant, egomaniacal, undisciplined, unethical, habitually dishonest, in every way grossly unfit for the office he occupies. Where are these Republicans who were supposed to stand up to Trump? Better question, where are these smug know-it-all fuckfaces who told us we didn't have to worry about Trump because these non-existent, principled Republicans were going to hold him back? I bet I know where they are. They're the ones who are currently siding with Trump against Romney, aren't they? Because it turns out the best definition of centrist is dipshit who doesn't know they're a conservative, and principled Republican is a contradiction in terms. Number 3, Netflix pulls episode of show after complaint from Saudi authorities. Let's take a break from talking about Trump and his supporters and turn instead to their ideological equivalents, the assholes who run Saudi Arabia. Last week, NBC News reported that Netflix had removed an episode of Hassan Minhaj's series Patriot Act from its Saudi Arabian platform at the behest of Saudi authorities. The episode, which has been available since October, features Minhaj criticizing the cozy relationship between the U.S. and the Saudis, and specifically calling out Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman for his role in the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. To be clear, the episode is still available on Netflix outside of Saudi Arabia. It was only pulled from the Saudi Arabian version of Netflix. And to be fair to Netflix here, they kind of had no choice because the thing is, that episode violated Saudi law. According to an anti-cybercrime statute enacted in 2007, it is illegal to produce or transmit material, quote, impinging on public order, religious values, moral values, and privacy. Obviously, the Saudi government would consider a show that talks about that time they murdered a journalist to be impinging on the public order, but there's another bit from that episode of Patriot Act that I think, in a way, is even more threatening to the Saudi regime. Early in the episode, Minhaj, who is Muslim, expresses amazement that it took the murder of Jamal Khashoggi to convince some people that Prince Mohammed isn't actually the progressive reformer he claims to be. Meanwhile, he says, every Muslim person you know was like, yeah, no shit, he's the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. The Saudi regime roots its authority in divine mandate. It claims to be governing according to the tenets of Islam, but most Muslims who live outside the kingdom regard Saudi Arabia the same as most non-Muslims do, as an oppressive dictatorship. There are those living in Saudi Arabia right now who are fighting for real liberation and progress, who know exactly what kind of men their leaders are. And the last thing the authorities in Saudi Arabia want those reformers to hear is that there are billions of people all around the world, including many fellow Muslims, who are on their side. Number 4, right-wingers attack Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for dancing. It's always difficult when someone you've come to admire is revealed to have a skeleton in their closet. We all must struggle to deal with this in our own way, of course, but we can't afford to ignore the troubling facts which have come to light. Newly sworn-in member of Congress, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, dances. I know. Stay with me. We're going to get through this. A video from 2010 featuring OcasioCortez, then a student at Boston University, dancing with some friends in a parody of a scene from The Breakfast Club, resurfaced last week after being tweeted by a shithead Trump supporter and retweeted by an even bigger shithead QAnon conspiracy theorist who commented, "Here is America's favorite commie know-it-all acting like the clueless nitwit she is," and subsequently deleted his Twitter account after being ratioed into goddamn oblivion. I can't even begin to fathom the twisted thought process that goes into sharing that video with the intent of making Ocasio-Cortez look bad. It kind of makes sense if I assume the target audience is hateful MAGA files, because they might read it as showing her to be a hypocrite, because they have this image of progressives being this bunch of scolding, joyless censors who just want everyone to constantly walk around on eggshells, petrified of giving even the slightest offense. But what message were these dipshits hoping to send to people who know better, or people who haven't formed an opinion yet? Ooh, look, she's a charming goofball. She made a fun video with her friends in college. Not so great now, is she? I realize this probably isn't the most helpful question to ask, and yet I can't help but ask it. What the hell is wrong with these people? I feel like I'm about to want to ask that question a lot more in the next couple of minutes, because it's now time for the segment devoted to some of the other things Donald Trump has done recently to disgrace the presidency and embarrass and/or endanger the United States and the rest of the world. It's number 5, The Further Misadventures of Lord Dampnut. Please keep in mind, as always, the following is not a complete list. He made a last-minute, unannounced trip to visit U.S. troops stationed in Iraq, where he took the opportunity to deliver a partisan campaign speech trashing Democrats and complaining about his imaginary border crisis, as opposed to the actual border crisis of which his administration is the direct cause. He threatened to completely close the U.S. border with Mexico, claiming it would be a profit-making operation. It would actually cost billions of dollars. He claimed that Mexico is paying for his border wall through a new trade deal. Not true, not even close to being true. He also claimed that the complete wall will be built with the shutdown money, the meaning of which is difficult to decipher because Trump is an inarticulate dipshit. If he's talking about the $5 billion he's demanding from Congress, as I already pointed out, that would only cover the cost of a few hundred miles of wall along the 2,000-mile border. If he means money he expects to save from shutting down the government doesn't save any money. It costs billions and billions of dollars. He tweeted that the deaths of migrant children at the border are the fault of Democrats. He tweeted congratulations to the new president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro is blatantly anti-gay, anti-woman, racist, anti-secularism, and oh yeah, a fascist. No wonder Trump likes him. He held a cabinet meeting during which he defended the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. The Guardian reported that the Trump administration is no longer cooperating with the United Nations on investigations into potential human rights violations inside the United States. Yeah, why would we want to know about that kind of stuff? He is reportedly considering further rollbacks of anti-discrimination regulations at the Departments of Justice, Education, and Housing and Urban Development. Shortly after the new Congress was sworn in and Nancy Pelosi was elected Speaker of the House of Representatives, Trump held an impromptu and totally pointless press briefing because I guess he couldn't stand people talking about someone other than him for one fucking day. Following a meeting with Democratic leaders where he again failed to win funding for his border wall, he declared that he would continue the government shutdown until he got what he wanted. But don't think he doesn't understand the plight of the common people. To those federal employees who are worried about paying their rent while they're out of work, Trump said that he hoped their landlords would go nice and easy on them. Cool. And what? The grocery store and the power company and the water company and the gas company and every other entity people pay bills to in order to live, they can all just go nice and easy on people too. And everyone will be fine. While Trump continues to throw a temper tantrum in order to gain token funding for a useless monument to his ego along a few hundred miles of the southern border. Great. At least he's got a plan, right? And finally, at that same news conference, Trump hinted that he might declare a state of emergency and simply order the military to build the wall. A bigoted nationalist president invoking emergency powers to circumvent the legislature. That usually turns out okay, right? That's 5. Speak out, act out, resist, look after each other. Hey folks, Happy New Year. Hope you got something out of this one. If you did, please click like and share the video and subscribe to this channel if you're not subbed already. And also, please consider helping me to keep making videos like this one by supporting this channel through Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to become a patron of this channel for as little as $1 a month. And believe me, those $1 a month pledges really add up and help me out tremendously. But if you can afford it and you think I'm worth it and you pledge $5 a month or more, you get yourself a shout out at the end of the Facepalm 5, just like these folks, my newest $5 per month patrons. And some of these have recently upped their pledge from a lower amount, and some of them have been former patrons who jumped back on board, so you might hear 1 or 2 familiar names if you listen to this bit. Anyway, Kiera Leach, thank you, Kiera. Dr. Babylon, thank you, Dr. Babylon. Bo Breeden, thank you, Bo. Jocelyn Starling, thank you, Jocelyn. Larry Yellingman, thank you, Larry. Sam, thank you, Sam. And James Dodd, thank you, James. Thank you to all of my $5 patrons. Thanks to all of you who are patrons at whatever level you are pledging. Thanks to all of you for watching, whether you're patrons or not. I thank you for all of your support in whatever form it comes, and I'll see you next time.